The blame game in New York City. The ambush execution of 2 police officers leads many to point the finger at the city's Democratic mayor and President Obama. This is Special Report. And good evening, I'm John Robertson for Brett Baer this Monday evening. We start off tonight in New York City, where tensions there are said to be unlike anything seen in decades. Police are being told to stay in pairs and watch their backs as they mourn the deaths of 2 of their own. Many are framing Saturday's brutal murders as the result of statements by politicians and pundits following the killings of African Americans by law enforcement in several cities. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Shannon Bream here in Washington with the rhetoric before and after Saturday's cop killings. But we begin with correspondent David Lee Miller and the latest tonight from Brooklyn. Good evening, David.
Good evening, John. Mayor de Blasio did some finger-pointing of his own this afternoon, and perhaps in an unexpected direction. He pointed the finger at the media for portraying what he sees as largely peaceful demonstrations as violent and divisive. Meanwhile, the mayor remains under pressure. Critics say he has lost the support from much of his own police force. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio today visited the homes and families of officers Rafael Ramos and Wenjen Liu, who were killed execution-style on Saturday. At a news conference, he described their anguish.
You can only imagine what a family member is going through at that moment, where their lives have suddenly been made unimaginable, that everything that they thought and believed would be a part of their lives is suddenly gone.
Authorities say the shooter was 28-year-old Ismael Brinsley. Early Saturday morning in Baltimore, investigators say he shot his girlfriend and got on a bus to New York. When he arrived, he used social media threatening to kill police in retaliation for the recent deaths of 2 black men. One message said, quote, "I'm putting wings on pigs today." Authorities released this new video of Brinsley taken by a surveillance camera at a shopping mall. Police say at 2:45 in the afternoon, Brinsley approached a parked patrol car in Brooklyn and using a 9mm handgun, executed the 2 officers inside. At the hospital, police officers turned their backs on Mayor Bill de Blasio, accusing him of fostering an environment that led to the shootings. The head of the police union criticized the mayor's support of demonstrators who took to the streets to protest a grand jury's decision not to indict a New York officer in connection with the death of Eric Garner, who was allegedly put in a chokehold while resisting arrest.
We tried to warn. It must not go on. It cannot be tolerated. That blood on the hands starts on the steps of City Hall in the office of the mayor.
The mayor, attempting to deflect any blame, denounced violence.
Any statement suggesting violence towards the police need to be reported to the police so we can stop future tragedies. That is our obligation. The attack on these 2 officers, the assassination of these 2 officers, was an attack on the city of New York as a whole, on every one of us, on our values, on our democracy. We cannot tolerate such attacks. Anyone with the ability to help us stop them must step forward.
Meanwhile, the crime scene where the 2 officers died has now been transformed into a memorial. Local, state, and federal law enforcement came throughout the day to pay their respects. So too did members of the public, including a member of Officer Ramos's church.
Nice guy, nice family man, great kids, great wife. I mean, you couldn't have asked anything better from this gentleman. He's going to be sorely missed. He's missed. I miss him.
Authorities say the shooter, Brinsley, acted alone. Police this afternoon revealed that he was what they describe as a spectator during a December 1st protest that took place in New York's Union Square Park. Not clear how or if that event may have played into his future act. And lastly, John, there are reports tonight that there have been copycat threats. Officials here say they are not significant, but the New York Police Department remains cautious.
Tough situation there in Brooklyn. David Lee Miller for us tonight. David, thank you. We're still waiting for the first spoken comments from President Obama about the New York City cop killings, but as correspondent Shannon Bream reports tonight, there has been plenty of rhetoric along the road to where we are right now.
Just 1 week after protesters called for, quote, dead cops as they marched in New York City, 2 NYPD officers were gunned down execution style as they sat in their patrol car. President Obama has issued a written statement condemning the killings, saying there can be no justification. But he has not broken from his vacation to make an on-camera statement as he has in the past in the aftermath of tragic events, like the terrorist beheading of American James Foley. The murders are prompting many to ask whether the heated rhetoric following the grand jury decisions not to charge police officers in the deaths of Michael Brown and Eric Garner went too far. Some blame public officials like New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio for suggesting police are not ethical. Just days ago, he talked publicly about being fearful of the danger his biracial son faces, despite the fact that he is a, quote, law-abiding young man.
We've had to literally train him, as families have all over this city for decades, in how to take special care in any encounter he has with the police officers.
If you want to say that Mayor de Blasio contributed to an atmosphere of hate for the police, absolutely he did. But so did the President of the United States, and so did Holder.
Under the direction of Attorney General Eric Holder, the Justice Department has doubled its number of investigations into law enforcement agencies as compared to the previous 5 years, while Holder also publicly talks of the need to retrain and reform officers.
Reform is underway in New Orleans, Seattle, Albuquerque, Portland, Oregon, East Haven, Connecticut, Puerto Rico, and Warren, Ohio.
Today there was a noticeable shift in de Blasio's tone, publicly calling for demonstrations to be put on hold until after the funerals, and pointing the finger back at a reporter who asked about demonstrators who accused police of racism.
What are you guys going to do? Are you going to keep dividing us? What you managed to do is pull up the few who do not represent the majority, who are saying unacceptable things, who shouldn't be saying those things.
In Washington, protesters moved ahead Monday with what they called a rally against racist police terror.
Black boys and men are being murdered all over this country, and no one is asking for the police to go on a moratorium to stop killing these black boys and these men.
Al Sharpton also finds himself in the middle of this controversy, having led marches and publicly decried the decisions by the 2 grand juries, while also criticizing police. Following the murders on Saturday, he issued a statement saying he was outraged. Now he says he's the one in danger and that he is receiving death threats. John?
Everybody needs to try to tone this down as much as they can across the board. Shannon, thanks so much. French officials are calling for vigilance after 3 attacks in recent days that some are connecting to radical Islam. In the latest incident, 11 people were injured after a driver crashed his van into a crowded Christmas market in western France on Monday evening. Over the weekend, a recent convert to Islam stabbed 2 police officers near Tours before being shot to death by police, while a driver said to have a history of mental problems ran down 13 pedestrians in the city of Dijon. None of the victims of either attack died. We still have nothing definite from President Obama about how and when he may retaliate against North Korea for hacking Sony Pictures. But that country's internet service is said to be totally down. Coincidence or something else? Correspondent Dan Springer is traveling with the president and reports tonight he's in Honolulu. Hello, Dan.
Yeah, hey, John. North Korea's internet went completely dark today after several days of shaky service, and there's plenty of speculation that this was some sort of a counter cyber attack by the United States, but the Obama administration is not claiming responsibility.
All of North Korea was knocked offline Monday, leading some to believe it's the U.S.'s first response to that country's cyber attack of Sony. The Obama administration is taking the 5th. A National Security Council spokesperson said, if in fact North Korea's internet has gone down, we'd refer you to that government for comment. Meantime, the only thing coming out of Pyongyang is a new threat. The National Defense Commission said, our toughest counteraction will be boldly taken against the White House, the Pentagon, and the whole U.S. mainland, the cesspool of terrorism, by far surpassing the symmetric counteraction declared by Obama. The rhetoric ramped up after the Obama administration accused North Korea of hacking into Sony's computers and threatening violence if the studio released a satirical movie about an assassination of leader Kim Jong-un. President Obama promised some action.
No, I don't think it was an act of war. I think it was an act of cyber vandalism that was very costly, very expensive. We take it very seriously. We will respond proportionally.
Some Republican leaders called for a quicker and stronger response.
The president
does not understand that this is a manifestation of a new form of warfare. When you destroy economies, when you are able to impose censorship on the world, and especially the United States of America, it's more than vandalism.
North Korea is going to be a growing problem for the foreseeable future. You have a person running that country that is mentally unstable.
President Obama has kept a low profile since starting his 2-week vacation in Hawaii, but the State Department stood by the accusation against North Korea, promised responses that would be seen and unseen, and called on North Korea to cool the rhetoric.
We do urge North Korea to exercise restraint, to refrain from further threatening actions at this time.
Sony officials now say they will distribute the film called The Interview, but it will not be in theaters, and now the studio stands to lose $74 million, the amount of money that they spent to produce and promote the movie. John?
Dan Springer for us tonight in our rainy Hawaii. Dan, thanks so much. A State Department spokeswoman says Secretary of State John Kerry has asked his Chinese counterpart for cooperation in the Sony hacking investigation. No one is officially connecting the Chinese with the attack, but national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin tells us tonight there are plenty of other things to worry about coming out of China.
The president clearly stated the North Koreans acted alone in carrying out the cyber attack against Sony, even though most cyber experts believe many North Korean hackers are based in China.
We've got no indication that North Korea was acting in conjunction with another country.
Experts on China worry the rising rhetoric from China's unruly stepchild could lead to miscalculation. China's military rise serves as the backdrop.
My biggest concern is that the distance between China and the United States militarily is closing because of China's development of its power projection forces.
Peter Brooks helped author the annual U.S.-China Economic and Security Review, required by Congress and released with little fanfare this November. Among its conclusions, in 2014, China conducted its first test of a new hypersonic missile vehicle, allowing it to strike anywhere in the world within minutes to hours. Performed its second test flight of a mobile intercontinental missile able to strike the entire continental U.S. In the next 3 to 5 years, China's nuclear force will expand. China had 1 modern submarine in the year 2000. Now it has 40. This January, China deployed its first aircraft carrier.
They now have developed a strategic ballistic missile submarine, which will be armed with a JL-2 intercontinental ballistic missile capable of reaching the United States.
Shortly after the release of the China report, the head of the U.S. military cyber command warned Congress that China and other unnamed countries could shut down key U.S. infrastructure with the cyber attack.
I fully expect that during my time as the commander, we are going to be tasked to help defend critical infrastructure within the United States.
We can't count on a deterrence if we're already in an adversarial position with a nation like China or Russia.
The Pentagon is not taking seriously North Korea's threats, unspecified threats against the White House, Pentagon, and whole U.S. mainland in the wake of U.S. accusations that it hacked Sony. Chinese leaders have urged the U.S. not to rush to judgment and blame North Korea for the cyber attack. John?
All right, Jennifer Griffin for us tonight from the Pentagon. Jennifer, thanks. Up next, Rand Paul and Marco Rubio probably will not be sharing any eggnog this holiday season. The latest on their political spat just ahead. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 31 in Denver, where there are heavy snows and high winds in the Rockies. Good news for the ski areas, though. Here's a look at the Wednesday national weather map for Christmas Eve. This storm could end up causing holiday travel problems further east as Christmas approaches. Fox 40 in Sacramento, where police have arrested a 27-year-old woman accused of stealing at least 1 package right off of someone's porch. Police say surveillance video shows Kimberly Bird taking the package, running to a waiting truck, and taking off. And this is a live look at Phoenix from Fox 10. One of the big stories there tonight, a very large bear running through a Phoenix suburb this morning. A driver called the authorities to report the animal. It was able to elude wildlife officials for hours, and then they decided to give up after it went into an area of dense brush. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.